So, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you and Ramadan Kareem. I would like to greet also one of our panelists who is joining us online from Malaysia, Dr. Surinderpal Kaur. My greetings go as well to the audience who is following this event on UN Web TV. So, dear friends, I would like to welcome you all at this second edition of the International Day to Combat Islamophobia, co-organized by the Permanent Delegation of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and the United Nations Office in Geneva. As you know, this day is organized pursuant to UNGA Resolution 76/254, which was adopted after the tragic events which occurred on 15 March 2019 in Christchurch, New Zealand. It is dedicated to all people from all religions and beliefs, victims of hate speech, discriminations, and stereotypes. We can note in this context that Islamophobia is on the rise following the Israeli aggression on Gaza. UNGA Resolution 76/254 mentions the overall rise in instances of discrimination, intolerance, and violence directed against members of many religious and other communities in various parts of the world, including cases motivated by Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and Christianophobia, and prejudices against persons of other religions or beliefs. The objective of this International Day is to raise awareness about these phenomena and constitute a call to action to curb them. Discrimination and stereotypes based on religion or belief are doing a lot of harm as they dehumanize people and prevent them from enjoying their rights. The series of desecration of the Holy Quran that we witnessed a few months ago are also to be condemned. We need to combat these scourges with great resolve with all the tools we have at our disposal, notably HRC Resolution 16/18 and 53/1. Our common goal is to promote mutual understanding and respect for all. Today, we are going to talk about all these issues with our guests. So first on our program, we have Her Excellency Mrs. Tatiana Valovaya, Director General of UNOG, who will make some opening remarks. We are very happy to have you with us today, Madam, and you have the floor.
Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Palais des Nations for the commemoration of the second edition of the International Day to Combat Islamophobia. We gathered here today to promote the common values of respect, tolerance, and interfaith harmony. I extend my warmest wishes as millions of Muslims around the world are observing the holy month of Ramadan that symbolizes solidarity, reconciliation, and benevolence. It serves as a time for introspection and spiritual connection, fostering unity and support among communities. Let me join the UN Secretary General in his call to make this holy period a time for empathy, action, and peace. In 2022, the UN General Assembly designated 15th March as the International Day to Combat Islamophobia, reflecting its profound concern regarding the increasing incidence of discrimination, intolerance, and violence against various religious groups worldwide. The persistent rise in hatred, discrimination, and violence against Muslims globally, exacerbated by the developments in the Middle East, underscores the severity of these challenges. Religiously motivated attacks, online and offline hate speech, discriminations, exclusion, and the propagation of Islamophobic narratives and stereotypes have profound and devastating effects on Muslim communities worldwide. The rise of Islamophobia is not a challenge of one particular region or country. It is a global issue that requires a global response. Leaders from countries, corporations, political parties, religious and civil organizations must speak out against all forms of hate and abuse targeting vulnerable populations. In this context, the Declaration, Human Fraternity for World Peace and Living Together, co-authored by His Holiness Pope Francis and His Eminence the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Sheikh Ahmed El-Tayeb, is a model for compassion and human solidarity. The United Nations is committed to continue working with partners to combat Islamophobia across the world. In this regard, let me highlight relevant UN policy frameworks. Our common agenda embodies the principles of equality and non-discrimination at its core. It holds a steadfast commitment to leave no one behind and reach those farthest behind first. With dedicated goals on combating discrimination and inequality, it encompasses a cross-cutting commitment to data desegregation. The UN Strategy and Plan of Action on Hate Speech provides a framework for our support to member states to counter this scourge while respecting freedom of opinion and expression. The UN Plan of Action to Safeguard Religious Sites provides comprehensive recommendations to support governments so that all can enjoy their right to observe religious rituals in safety. The UN Plan of Action to Prevent Violent Extremism recognizes the role that discrimination and marginalization can play in fueling extremism and emphasizes the need to promote tolerance, respect, and understanding among different communities. Ladies and gentlemen, International Geneva plays a crucial role in countering Islamophobia and intolerance. Its diversity of actors, expertise, and innovative solutions are highly effective in shaping a comprehensive approach to global action on peace, humanitarian efforts, human rights, health, technology, and sustainable development. Today's event provides a welcome opportunity to raise awareness about Islamophobia and to renew our commitment to eliminate it through concrete collective action. Let us join our efforts for greater solidarity, tolerance, respect, and mutual understanding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. I would like to thank Mrs. Balovaya for her insightful intervention, which reflects her personal commitment and the one of UNOG to combat intolerance and to promote mutual respect and understanding across the world. We would like also to thank you very much for your availability and the readiness of UNOG to co-organize this event. So I understand, Mrs. We are going to watch a video message of His Excellency Mr. Hussein Ibrahim Taha.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Aujourd'hui, nous commémorons ensemble la journée internationale de la lutte contre l'islamophobie. Je pense que cet événement est l'occasion de réitérer notre solidarité avec les victimes de l'islamophobie et avec les victimes d'incidents d'actions violentes, de harcèlement et d'intimidation motivées par la haine et l'intolérance religieuse. Cet événement est crucial parce qu'il nous rappelle constamment que la haine et l'intolérance peuvent aujourd'hui se manifester par une violence désastreuse, en particulier lorsqu'elles sont commises par la base de la foi, sur la base de la foi ou de la religion. C'est également l'occasion de mobiliser la volonté politique et de lancer un appel mondial à toutes les parties prenantes pour qu'elles prennent les mesures concrètes afin de dissuader les forces du mal dont la principale intention est de détruire la vie harmonieuse et la conscience pacifique des événements des différentes religions. Cet événement est d'autant plus pertinent que les forces de la haine et de l'intolérance continuent de se répandre, voire de se développer à une vitesse alarmante. Il est triste de constater que l'islamophobie et d'autres formes de xénophobie sont malheureusement devenues un phénomène normal pour certains. Il est en effet très triste de constater que dans certains pays, les actions provocatrices ont continué à avoir lieu, souvent avec la protection évidente des autorités. Des figures emblématiques de certaines religions ont été consultées, des textes religieux et des écritures saintes ont été brûlés et profanés, des lieux saints de culte ont été attaqués, des individus ont été pris pour cible uniquement en raison de leur foi ou de leur religion. Dans le passé, de tels incidents se produisent occasionnellement, mais de nos jours, ils sont devenus intenses dans notre rythme quotidien dans différents endroits. C'est pourquoi, au nom de l'Organisation de la coopération islamique, je voudrais réitérer notre profonde reconnaissance aux Nations unies pour l'adoption par l'Assemblée générale de la résolution 76-254 désignant le 15 mars comme journée internationale de lutte contre l'islamophobie. Il s'agit d'une étape cruciale dans la lutte contre l'incitation à la haine et la discrimination et la violence fondée sur la religion. Permettez-moi de saisir cette occasion pour renouveler notre appel collectif à donner à tous les membres de la communauté internationale afin qu'ils prennent des mesures et unissent leurs forces pour lutter contre l'islamophobie et promouvoir les valeurs de tolérance, de compréhension, d'harmonie interconfessionnelle et la coexistence pacifique entre les différentes religions et cultures. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So we thank very much His Excellency Mr. Taha for his insightful remarks and relay his call for action to combat religious hatred and to promote a pacific coexistence between people, cultures, and civilizations. So now we will move to Mr. Volker Turk, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, who will deliver a keynote address. Do we have the video, please?
Excellencies, colleagues, I want to first wish Ramadan Kareem to all those observing. Thank you to the Organization for Islamic Cooperation for convening this event, marking the International Day to Combat Islamophobia. We remember the 51 victims who were murdered exactly 5 years ago at the Al-Nur Mosque and Linwood Islamic Center in Christchurch, New Zealand. And we remember all victims around the world who have suffered and continue to suffer the consequences of hate. We are living through an era of intensifying global crisis and conflict, spurred by deep and deadly divisions between our human family. We see these tensions and divisions rising on many fronts, including through a wave of renewed hate speech, discrimination and violence in all regions, including against Muslims. All forms of religious hatred and intolerance are unacceptable. The message today is perhaps more urgent than ever. We are all well past the hour to restore peace, tolerance, and respect. We know that fear breeds hate, ignorance, and distrust of the other. Islamophobia has stolen lives. It has dehumanized entire communities. It has sparked torrents of hate speech, magnified by social media. Many have been subjected to surveillance and religious profiling. Mosques have been attacked and sometimes destroyed. Counter-extremism laws, policies, and practices have been misused, leading to illegal arrests, arbitrary detention, and violence. In the context of the current conflict in the Middle East, multiple reports have emerged showing huge spikes in Islamophobic incidents. For example, an up to 600% increase in some countries in North America and Europe. One organization noted a tenfold increase in incidents between 7 and 23 October in one country in the Asia-Pacific region. The surge in Islamophobia is shocking, and it is occurring as part of a broader trend. I'm also profoundly concerned about the continuing rise of anti-Semitism, Christianophobia, and prejudices against people of other religions or beliefs, of hatred that is directed at migrants, refugees, and minorities, including Roma, about deep-seated racism against people of African descent and indigenous peoples, and many other forms of discrimination and xenophobia. The recording and collecting of reliable data are essential for more effective response to hate speech and hate crime everywhere. More must be done to ensure incidents are reflected in official statistics and that all countries have the systems and methodology needed to record disaggregated data. Excellencies, colleagues, 2 years ago, the UN General Assembly adopted Resolution 76/254, a crucial step forward in recognizing Islamophobia around the world and the need to put an end to it. The world remains far from achieving this ambition. States must urgently step up their efforts to combat intolerance against people based on religion or belief within the parameters of international human rights law, using the many tools they have at their disposal. Several frameworks already exist. Human Rights Council Resolution 16/18 has set out an action plan for countries to address religious intolerance, and the Istanbul process is a dedicated intergovernmental mechanism to implement it. The Rabat Plan of Action, which was developed by my office, and the Beirut Declaration on Faith for Rights can further guide countries' efforts. And to address the root causes of religious hatred, my office's practical guide to developing comprehensive anti-discrimination legislation is a crucial tool to support states in protecting minority rights. While states have a leading role to play in countering discrimination and intolerance, governments, religious leaders, faith-based actors, civil society organizations, and social media platforms can and should all work together to bridge divides and foster deeper dialogue and understanding. Faith literacy, in other words, knowledge and understanding about the values of each religion and belief, is also crucial. I urge states to include it as part of comprehensive training initiatives on combating religious hatred for law enforcement officers and the judiciary, faith-based actors, teachers, and media professionals. I also urge states to define and implement clear measures to address discrimination in the job and housing markets within criminal justice systems and in national security responses. Colleagues, I'd like to think that humanity's superpower is the richness of our diversity. I sincerely hope that by embracing and celebrating our differences, we can stop these vicious cycles of prejudice, hate, and violence. And in doing so, we can rebuild the space for dialogue, tolerance, and respect for our fellow human beings, no matter their religion and no matter who or what they believe in. Thank you.
I would like to thank very much the High Commissioner for his very comprehensive address and take this opportunity to thank him, as well as his office, for all their efforts aimed at tackling hate speech, discrimination, and related issues. He noted the need to collect data to have a better picture of the discriminations and incidents based on religion or belief in order to tackle them more efficiently. As he rightly mentioned, we have many tools at our disposal that we need to implement. So thank you very much for being with us today, Excellency. Thank you. Thank you. So now, dear colleagues, we are going to turn to our panelists. So we are going to listen first to Dr. Surinderpal Kaur, who is Dean of the Faculty of Languages and Linguistics at the University of Malaya in Malaysia. Her research interests revolve around issues related to discrimination and prejudice, notably in the domains of migration, Islamophobia, as well as gender issues. You have the floor, Professor Kaur.
Thank you so much. I'd like to start first by wishing Ramadan Kareem to everyone observing it, and I would also like to. I would also like to thank Ambassador Bakshi for having invited me over to give a few words. With your permission, I'd like to share some of my slides. Okay. All right. I'd like to begin, first of all, I don't want to repeat everything that has already been said. I think His Excellency, Volker Turk has said a lot of important things. What I'd like to point out is that, I was asked to speak about structural discriminations based on religion as well as belief, which impact upon a fruitful life as a citizen of a country, so of a nation state. So this is what I'm going to be focusing on. So yes, basically what happens is the structural discriminations are obstacles to the full enjoyment of citizenship rights. And Islamophobia in particular is a very pervasive and pernicious form of discrimination. I'm not going to go into the definition of Islamophobia, but what I would like to say is that it manifests itself in various structural forms, and it impedes the rights and freedoms of Muslim citizens in numerous societies worldwide. The key to remember here is that Islamophobia also intersects with other forms of discrimination. So structurally, you also have other forms of discrimination coming in together, where racial profiling, xenophobia are also involved, and this exacerbates the impact on Muslim communities worldwide, especially if you look at the Middle Eastern or South Asian Muslims, of the descent of a Middle Eastern or South Asian. They're disproportionately targeted by security measures, surveillance. Also, such policies violate the civil liberties of Muslim citizens. At the same time, they create a climate of fear and a climate of distrust. Some of the things I'd like to point out are the types of structural discriminations that are existing today. You've got discriminatory legislation. Some countries have enacted laws that specifically target Muslim citizens, such as bans on religious attire. And these very often disproportionately affect Muslim women, limiting their ability to freely express their religious beliefs in public life. Then you've got surveillance and profiling, where government surveillance programs, law enforcement practices, again disproportionately target Muslim communities under the guise of counter-terrorism efforts. So Muslims very often face increased scrutiny at airports, border crossings, as well as in public spaces, and this leads to a feeling of alienation amongst these communities. We also have employment discrimination, where studies have shown that job applicants with Muslim-sounding names are less likely to be called for interviews and face harassment and discrimination. Educational discrimination. Students face discrimination in educational settings, and of course there's Islamophobic attitudes amongst peers, amongst educators. This is a major hindrance to academic success and the social integration of students within a wider community, and this denies them the right to a safe and inclusive participation as citizens of a particular nation state. We move on now to media representation. I don't have to say a lot about this because every day we face a blast of stereotypes and misrepresentations of Muslims in the media, which perpetuates Islamophobia. So what happens here is that, often there are depictions of Muslims as being inherently violent. And this again reinforces and fosters the climate of fear and suspicion. Leads on to hate crimes and violence, and this has been talked about before by my very able colleagues at the panel today. Muslim attacks, physical assaults, vandalism of Islamic centers are all too common. And again, this creates this climate of fear within a nation state that benefits no one within that nation state, nor does it benefit the citizens, and undermines, in fact, their sense of belonging and citizenship. now talk about institutional bias, where government agencies themselves, educational institutions, they perpetuate Islamophobia. They perpetuate other kinds of discrimination as well. And, although I am focusing on Islamophobia, I would like to acknowledge that there are other kinds of discriminations that are based on religion or belief systems. Again, all of these impact on civil society. So how do we counter structural discriminations based on religion? Well, first of all, we need to talk about legal protections. As His Excellency Volker Turk pointed out, the United Nations already has lots of tools that we can use. But in fact, governments themselves should use these tools. They should enact and enforce robust anti-discrimination laws that explicitly prohibit discrimination based on religion or belief. And then they should also look at avenues for victims to seek redress through a legal mechanism. And policymakers should also work to close loopholes or gaps that allow for discriminatory practices in areas such as housing, education, employment. Moving on to education and awareness, we should be promoting education and an awareness about Islam and Muslims, as well as other types of minority belief systems, and challenge these stereotypes and misconceptions. There should be accurate and balanced representations of Islam in curricula in schools, fostering empathy, understanding, and respect for religious diversity. Community engagement is another very, very strong tool here. Building strong, inclusive communities is a must. It is crucial in combating Islamophobia, crucial in combating structural discrimination. Civil society organizations, religious leaders, community activists should work collaboratively to create spaces, to create mutual understanding and solidarity across religious and cultural divides. In fact, we should also focus on community-led initiatives, interfaith events, cultural festivities, as well as neighborhood outreaches program, which can help bridge divides. Media literacy is another thing that we can focus on. I think we should really call out the media that perpetuate stereotypes and encourage them to seek out diverse perspectives. They should be encouraged to adopt ethical reporting standards. And in this case as well, we should actually work towards reducing the echo chambers on social media, which create and perpetuate discriminations online. Political leaders need to have the will to combat. They must demonstrate a commitment to upholding the rights and dignity of all citizens, and there must be empowerment and support to combat any kind of discrimination. And this provides access to legal aid, counseling services, as well as community support networks. And at the global stage, because Islamophobia is a global phenomenon, international cooperation is absolutely necessary. And if we coordinate and do implement these strategies, I think there can be many inclusive and equitable environments to help us free ourselves from discrimination. Just going on, and I'm not going to talk very much about this, there have been success stories based on the tools that we have. Canada, Sweden, United Kingdom, as well as New Zealand, that actually precipitated today's day. They have actually taken swift action. They have created human rights commissions that promote understanding. The Swedish government has a legal framework that includes provisions to address discrimination. Canadian government has launched initiatives as the anti-racism strategy. So these measures are already there. They are already something that we can focus on, which are already success stories, which other nation states can emulate, as well as use the tools and other platforms that are already in existence by the UNOG. However, I'd like to say that although these examples demonstrate progress in countering structural discrimination based on religion or belief, we need to note challenges always persist. In fact, as rightly pointed out, Islamophobia is on the rise. It has already been at a very crucial state and it's still rising. So ongoing efforts are needed to ensure the full enjoyment of citizenship rights for all individuals, regardless of their religious affiliation. Finally, I'd like to end by stating that we may have structural discrimination based on religion or belief, and often this is exemplified by Islamophobia. They undermine the principles of equality. They undermine the principles of citizenship rights. They undermine the principles of human dignity. So what we need to do is focus on addressing Islamophobia, focus on dismantling the discriminatory structures and practices, challenging the biased attitudes, promoting inclusivity and equality, promoting social cohesion, and the most important thing here is to uphold the rights and dignity of all citizens, regardless of their religious beliefs or their backgrounds. With that, I thank you very much.
So I would like to thank very much Professor Kaur for her very thoughtful presentation. You strive to go deeper, Professor, in the understanding of the issues we are talking about. Your research as academia is very helpful as it gives us new perspectives and methods of work. You rightly also put the focus on the need to really give a lot of attention to structural discriminations. So I thank you very much once again, Professor.
You're welcome.
Is an affiliated organ of the OIC, and one of its objectives is to act at the international level to promote cooperation with youth organizations with the view to enhancing dialogue and tolerance among them. So you have the floor, Mr. Taha.
Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon all of you. Dear Excellencies, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear ambassadors, first of all, I want to extend my sincere gratitude to Her Excellency Ambassador Nasime Bagli, the permanent observer of the permanent representative of the OIC, for her great efforts in organizing this impactful event. It is a distinct honor to address you on this inaugural International Day to Combat Islamophobia, standing in solidarity with the resilient young people who bear the weight of its harmful effects on personal, familial, and collective levels. And I wish that all the loss for the Islamophobic crimes, starting from the Christchurch loss, may their souls may rest in peace. On this special occasion dedicated to combating Islamophobia, racism, and hate crimes, we are reminded of the imperative to address their root causes. Our commitment extends beyond mere acknowledgement to actively healing the wounds inflicted by various Islamophobic incidents globally. On the ongoing acts such as the mosque burnings and killings, insults, and burning of the Holy Quran, and targeting of the girls with hijab, demand our collective attention. Fueled by extremist ideologies and political agendas, these incidents seek to eliminate and deprive individuals of their basic rights, education, civic engagements, and their promising future. And unfortunately, I want to underline that most of these crimes left unattended or without any legal consequences. And unfortunately, the rise in the number of the Islamophobic crimes and incidents all around the world is at rise. As we reflect on the blessed month of the Ramadan, a time of peace and worship, our hearts weigh heavy with the catastrophic genocide and systematic atrocities in Gaza. The crimes against the civilians, women, and innocent children demand urgent humanitarian aid, recovery efforts, and coordinated mobilization of resources. And the international community must revisit the legal framework for children and youth under occupation, advocating for a legal approach that ensures the justice, inclusivity, and accountability. And on this point, while we are looking to the root causes of the Islamophobia, one of the major points may be the migrations that's been faced by the Western societies. And once we look about the reasons of this migration rates, most probably the number of the refugees and displaced people who are seeking a future in different places of the world may be this reason. But these people who are seeking their futures in different countries were quite happy in their lands until the mostly man-made disasters had hit their countries. So if we are talking about Islamophobia and root causes, I think we should talk about how we can live in peace in all around the world. Dear Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at ICYF, Islamic Cooperation Youth Forum, representing more than 500 million youth and with more than 66 member organizations across the OIC region, we believe that promoting the peace and coexistence and cohabitation, we believe that building the bridges among the different communities around the world, we believe that preserving the fundamental values such as faith, human rights, cooperation, dignity, and prosperity will be the solution for the Islamophobia and all kind of hate crimes. So for promoting the peace and coexistence culture, we are, with the support of the different member countries, we are organizing different projects. In 2023, ICYF launched a global youth action against Islamophobia, partnering with the member institutions. This initiative introduced a youth global declaration on Islamophobia, and it was a call for action for the whole stakeholders. And in ICYF, with the collaboration with its international partners, we had organized several panels. One of them was the hybrid panel, which has been organized in the 78th United Nations General Assembly, focused on engaging youth in abolishing all forms of racism from a faith perspective. The event aimed to contribute to a sustainable future. The discussions involved with the faith leaders, youth activists, and experts, combining in-person and virtual participation. Furthermore, the 62nd session of the Commission for the Social Development served as the backdrop for a crucial side event titled Safeguarding the Future, Mitigating Aggression's Impact on the Future of Children and Youth in Palestine, which has been held in 7th of February 2024 at the headquarters of the United Nations in New York. And this collaborative effort brought together great speakers and policymakers who are shared valuable insights. Moving beyond immediate social and economic concerns, dialogue aimed at fostering inclusive development for the youth in Palestine. Today, as I address you here, ICYF is organizing a side event on the margins of the CSW 68 titled Empowering the Youth and Women for a Sustainable Future. And this side event also aims to address the new challenges by applying innovative technologies and solutions for catalyzing collaborative action. Dear Excellencies, the fight against Islamophobia necessitates a collective integrated strategy to safeguard young generations from socio-economic and psychological harm. Under the Youth Global Action led by ICYF, organizations globally can actively participate, fostering dialogue, experiencing sharing, and collaboration for effective solutions. This collective action invites governments and international organizations to join hands through enhanced cooperation, transcending OIC institutions or Muslim youth alone. Our focus must be on eradicating discrimination and Islamophobic narratives, encouraging interfaith dialogue, and raising awareness of genuine understanding of the faith and tradition. Finally, let us enhance our coordinated efforts on both national and international levels to eradicate all forms of discrimination. And again, I want to repeat the necessity of immediate action for tackling the Islamophobia is crucial. These immediate actions shall be giving a place in the school curriculums about Islam as a religion of peace, and we need strong legal protection mechanisms. We need the representative of Muslims at all levels in different communities, and we need a strengthened and empowered mechanism for application for the victims of the Islamophobic hatred. I appreciate your time and attention to this crucial cause, emphasizing the importance of the cooperation, conversation, and respect on our shared journey toward a more inclusive, tolerant, and peaceful world. And as Her Excellency mentioned, if anyone is left behind, we are all left behind. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramazan Kareem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taha. I would like to thank you for this presentation. You are indeed very active on the ground, doing concrete things at the level of youth associations. It is important to be on the ground and instill at the youth level the values of tolerance and mutual respect. So really we encourage you to in your noble mission. Thank you very much. So now I'm going to open the floor for questions and comments. and I will first give the floor to the groups. So I will start. Yeah. So I will give the floor now to Pakistan, to the distinguished ambassador of Pakistan, in his capacity as OIC coordinator. You have the floor, Excellency.
Thank you, Chair, and I wish to take this opportunity to thank the OIC Observer Mission for convening this side event on an issue of immense contemporary salience. We welcome the remarks made by the Secretary General of the OIC, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, and all distinguished panelists. I also wish to thank Director General Junog and her team for their support. The declaration of 15 March as an International Day to Combat Islamophobia by the General Assembly is a demonstration of global solidarity. International cooperation to combat Islamophobia is necessary and urgent. Independent media reports have pointed out a significant rise in Islamophobic crimes in many parts of the world in the recent past. This trend has manifested in several ways, including discrimination, stereotyping, and acts of hostility against individuals and communities based on their faith or cultural background. A significant increase in such incidents risks undermining the pluralistic and democratic values that underpin the international order. International efforts to combat Islamophobia or any other form of religious and racial intolerance and hatred are anchored in the foundational principles of the international human rights framework. Non-discrimination, upholding human dignity, mutual respect, freedom of religion, and protection from acts of hatred and incitement are the common goals for which peoples of all racial and religious backgrounds are equally entitled. The call to join hands against Islamophobia demands acting on these principles. Nothing new, different, or special. The international human rights covenants provide the legal basis for action against Islamophobia and other forms of religious intolerance and hatred. There is scope to strengthen our action by reinforcing normative convergences in many ways. Our work in the ad hoc committee on elaboration of complementary standards must gain momentum. There is also the need to invigorate the political consensus and action in implementing HRC Resolution 1618. The Council has also responded to provocateurs who use the form of attacking Holy Quran to express hatred towards a community. The support to the HRC Resolution 53/1 signifies that not just the people of a single faith, but large majority of humanity condemned such acts. Accountability must be made part of the efforts to strengthen implementation. Religious hatred can begin as a form of an unpleasant cultural expression, but if left unchecked, it can turn into an epidemic, transforming into a social malaise and growing into a major political crisis. A balanced but comprehensive approach is needed to deal with it. An approach that covers the bandwidth of actions envisaged in Resolution 1618. Action must begin by fostering collaborative approaches that promote harmony and address misperceptions through training and dialogue. It should include early warning tools and preventive actions at the local and community levels. As an important next step, we must not forget to unambiguously speak out against expressions of hatred. Being an apologist for a provocateur is in fact siding with hate. Preventive action must not end at social and political censure, but also include administrative and legal measures which can provide a sense of security and comfort to target persons. Finally, let us accept that when a majority of the humanity calls something as unacceptable expression of hatred, then it is time to join international solidarity and take legal action against it. This International Day should not only be about raising awareness, but also a step towards international cooperation in the form of sharing best practices, expertise, resources, and learning for experience. We look forward to strengthening such cooperation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for these remarks made on behalf of the OIC group. And now I give the floor to the delegation of Qatar, who will make a statement on behalf of the GCC. You have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The GCC member states express their profound gratitude to the co-host, the organization Cooperation and the United Nations for convening this timely commemoration of International Day to Combat Islamophobia. The GCC member states welcome the international community step in the adoption of the resolution that set this date as the International Day to Combat Islamophobia and call for continued efforts to address its escalating challenges. The member states of the GCC condemn the discrimination and violence that stem from Islamophobia and stress the need for collective efforts and solidarity in combating religious intolerance and promoting a culture of peace and mutual understanding. The recent horrendous event, including the reprehensible acts of desecrating the Holy Quran and targeting of civilians, underscore the urgency of our collective action against religious intolerance. In line with the UNGA resolution 76/254, we call upon the international community to strengthen efforts in promoting a comprehensive understanding of Islamophobia and its consequences and ensure that efforts to combat Islamophobia are integrated into broader strategy for the promotion and protection of human rights. The GCC member states remain committed to combating religious hatred, promoting a culture of peace and tolerance, respect for diversity, and the realization of all human rights. Thank you.
Own capacity. So you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you for giving me the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, and greetings to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank the OIC Permanent Delegation and the UN Office in Geneva for co-organizing this important event and to commemorate the second edition of the International Day to Combat Islamophobia. We also thank His Excellency, the Director General of the OIC, and the High Commissioner for Human Rights, and our distinguished panelists. Islamophobia is spread through organized ideological campaigns using online and offline media platforms and think tanks. The social and political legislative measures that discriminate against and violate the rights of Muslims, such as prohibiting Muslim women from wearing headscarves in the workplace, banning of religious symbols of Islam, and undertaking security policies stigmatizing Muslim populations, and most recently the burning of copies of the Holy Quran in some countries, are typical examples of this heinous practice.